Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Good morning, everyone. Hare Krishna. All glories to the Śrīla Prabhupada Disciples Association. All glories to the Sankirtan movement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. All glories to His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, our living guru. Prabhupada lives in his Vani incarnation with us, and we're sharing that Vani incarnation in our classes globally. And we want to thank you for participating. Many of you come without fail every week to our 3 classes, and we will be expanding them in different formats and more information, more opportunity for everyone to continue to gather inspiration from association of like-minded devotees. That's a very important part of our group, is we all throw the stone into the same part of the pond, and there is no ripples. It's all one voice, the voice of our spiritual master, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda. We're going to finish up, we're at the Jaladuta Diaries, as you know, for those who have been following along. It's been very, very inspiring to read them meticulously together and get some understanding of how focused Śrīla Prabhupada was on the mission to help the world. This is a critical time in the history of mankind, especially the way modern technology has affected the way things are, both good and bad. And it's very important that a movement like ours, the Hare Krishna Society, takes a foothold in the propaganda war that's going on against the human society. And our propaganda is that Krishna is the purpose of life, that God exists in his transcendental forms. He's all pervasive, he's all around us. But unfortunately, people are so misguided. They have no idea of who they are and what they're doing here. And it's creating complete chaos in this Kali Yuga atmosphere that we're currently living in. Excuse me, sorry. The following is an excerpt from a letter to Hanuman Prasad Podar, who was the head of the Gita Press, a prominent publishing house in India, which specializes in religious literature. So this is Prabhupada writing to him. Los Angeles, 5th of February, 1970, to the Gita Press, Gorakhpur. My dear Baiji Hanuman Prasad Podard. Please accept my humble obeisances. I hope by this time you have received my acknowledgement dated yesterday for your letter dated 26 January 1970. As you want to publish a comprehensive article about my activities in the Kalyana, I think it is proper to give you a short history of my coming to the Western world. Sometime in the year 1922, when I was acting as manager of Dr. Bose Laboratory Limited, I was fortunate enough to meet my spiritual master, His Divine Grace Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Paribrajacharya 108 Śrīmad Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupāda. On the very first meeting with His Divine Grace, he asked me to preach the message of Lord Chaitanya in the Western world. At that time, I was a young man and a nationalist, admirer of Mahatma Gandhi and C.R. Das. So I replied him at the time, would you care for the message of Lord Chaitanya while we are a subject nation? In this way, I had some argument with my spiritual master, and at the end I was defeated. But at the time, because I was already married, I could not take his words very seriously. In this way, I passed on as a householder, but by the causeless mercy of my divine master, that order of preaching was impressed on my heart. I was initiated regularly in 1933 at Allahabad, when Sri Malcolm Haley, the then governor of UP, opened our Gaudiya Math branch there. Then in 1936, my spiritual master left this world, leaving a message for me that would be better for me to preach in English language. So I was thinking very seriously, and then as late as 1944, I started my paper, Back to Godhead. Gradually in 1954, I retired from my family life and then began to live alone in Mathura, Vrindavan. In 1959, I was awarded sannyas by one of my godbrothers, His Holiness B.P. Keshava Maharaj. Then I began translating Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam in 1960. And perhaps in 1961. I was your guest in the Gita Bhagchi. You were very kind to help me partially for publishing my first volume of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam through the Dalmia Charitable Trust. With great difficulty, then, I published the second and third volumes of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam until 1965, when I prepared myself to come to this country with some books. He brought those trunks, those beautiful Bhagavatams. With great difficulty, I was able to get the P form passed by the controller of foreign exchange. In some way or other, I reached Boston, and on September 17th of September 1965, I was thinking while on board the ship Jaladuta, why Krishna has brought me to this country. I knew that Western people are too much addicted to so many forbidden things according to our Vedic conception of life. So out of sentiment, I wrote a long poetry addressing Lord Krishna. So as to what was his purpose in bringing me to this country. At that time, I was sponsored by a friend's son, Gopal Agarwal, who was settled up in this country by marrying an American girl. Sally, I was their guest, and I feel very much obliged to Gopal and his wife Sally for their nice treatment and reception. I was with them for 3 weeks in Butler near Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Then I came to New York. I was getting some money by selling my Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Thus, I was maintaining myself in New York. After some time, I rented one apartment at the number 171st Street West. But after a few months, all my things, typewriter, tape recorder, books, were stolen. Then for some time, one of my students gave me shelter at Bowery Street. That was like the slums. I then rented one storefront in an apartment at 26 2nd Avenue for $200 a month. But without any source of income, so I started my classes, and sometimes on Sundays, I used to chant Hare Krishna mantra in Tompkins Square Park from 3 to 5 p.m. During this time, all the young boys and girls used to gather around me. Sometimes poet Ginsberg would come to see me. And sometimes a reporter from the New York Times came to see me. In this way, the Hare Krishna mantra chanting became very popular on the Lower East Side. In this way, the younger generation became attracted, and gradually many branches were opened one after another. After New York, the next branch was opened in San Francisco, then in Montreal, then in Boston, in Los Angeles. We now have the following centers in the States, Canada, Europe, Japan, and Australia. Beautiful. Very, very detailed, brief explanation of Śrīla Prabhupāda's emerging as Founder-Ācārya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness is what we're trying to reestablish with him in the center. No one else. Venkat Prabhu, Haribo in South India. So good to see your smiling young face. Could you please play Jaya Radha Madhava, Kunja Bihari, and then we'll have our Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam lecture given by the wonderful Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu. All glories to his service. All glories to Śrīla Prabhupāda.
Thank you. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Sri Goswami Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki jai, Namacharya Śrīla Haridas Thakur ki jai, Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivas Adi Gaur Bhaktivedanta Swami Sri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Sam Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan ki jai, Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Navadvip Dham ki jai, Swami Ito Bhaktivedanta ki jai, Ganga Mai ki jai, Jamuna Mai ki jai, Tulasi Devi ki jai, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Swami Ito Bhaktivedanta ki jai. All glories to the assembled Lord. All glories to the assembled Lord. Thank you very much.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya. Narayanam Namaskritya. Naram Cheva Narottamam. Naram Cheva Narottamam. Devim Saraswatim Vyasam. Devim Saraswatim Vyasam. Tato Jayam Mudirayet. Tato Jayam Mudirayet. One should utter the means of conquest, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, after offering respectful obeisances, 1. To the personality of Godhead Narayana, 2. To the Narayana Rishi, who is the supremmost human being, 3. To the Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, then 4. To Śrīla Vyasadeva, the author. From Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2, Text 17. Srinvatam Svakata Krishna Punyashravana Kirtana Hridyantasto Yabhadrani Vidunoti Suritsatam. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is also the Paramatma in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, does cleanse the desire for material enjoyment in the heart of the devotee, who has developed the urge for hearing his, Krishna's messages, which are themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. Text number 18. Nashtaprayeshu vabhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naistiki. By regular attendance in the Bhagavatam class or rendering service unto the pure devotees, all that is inauspicious in the heart of a candidate becomes destroyed almost to nil, and thus loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental song, comes into being an irrevocable fact. Today we'll be reading from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2, Text number 15. All translations, synonyms, and purports by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, Founder-Ācārya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, also known as the Krishna Consciousness Movement. Yadanudya asina yuktaha karma granti nibandhanam chindanti kovidastasya kona kuryat kataratim. Yad, which, anudhya, remembrance, asina, sword, yuktaha, being equipped with persons, karma, reactionary work, granti, knot, nibandhanam, internet, chindanti, cut, kovida, tasya, intelligent, tasya, his, ko, who, na, not, kuryat, shall not do, kata, messages, ratim, attention. Translation by Śrīla Prabhupāda. Intelligent persons do cut off the internet of the knot of reactionary work by remembrance of the personality of Godhead. Therefore, who will not give attention to his message? Purport by His Divine Grace Śrīla Prabhupāda. Contact of the spiritual spark living being with material elements is the point of internetting knot. Unless that knot is cut off, the living being has to undergo fruitive action and reactions of his endless work. Liberation means freedom from the cycle of reactionary work. And this liberation automatically follows for one who constantly remembers the transcendental pastimes of the personality of Godhead. The reason is that all activities of the Supreme Lord, or his Leela, are transcendental to the modes of material energy. They're all attractive spiritual activities, and therefore, constant association of the spiritual activities of the Supreme Lord gradually spiritualize the reminiscence of the conditioned soul and ultimately unlocks the interknitting knot of material bondage. Liberation from the material bondage is, therefore, a byproduct of devotional service. Attainment of spiritual knowledge is not sufficient to ensure liberation to such a learned fellow. Such knowledge must be overcoated with devotional service so that ultimately the devotional service only predominates and liberation is made possible. Even the reactionary work of the fruitive workers can lead one to liberation when the same is overcoated with devotional service. Karma overcoated with devotional service is called karma yoga. Similarly, empiric knowledge overcoated with devotional service is called jnana yoga. Pure bhakti yoga is independent of such karma and jnana, because that alone can not only endow one with liberation from the conditional life, but also can award the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Therefore, any sensible man who is above the average man with poor fund of knowledge must constantly remember the personality of Godhead by hearing about him, by glorifying him, by remembering him, and by worshiping him, always without any interval. That is the perfect way of devotional service. The Goswamis of Vrindavana, who were authorized by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to preach the Bhakta cult, rigidly followed this rule and made immense literatures of transcendental science for our benefit. They have chalked out ways for all classes of men in terms of the divisions of different statuses and order of life in pursuance of the teachings of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam and similar other authorized scriptures. Text number 16. Shushrushoho shraddadhanasya Vasudeva Kataruchihi Syanmahat Sevaya Vipra Punyatirtani Shevanat Shushrushoho. One who is engaged in hearing Shraddadhanasya with care and attention, Vasudeva, in respect of Vasudeva, Kata, message, Ruchi, affinity, Sat, is made possible, Mahat Sevaya, by service rendered to pure devotees, Vipra, or the twice born, Punyatirtha, those who are cleansed of all vice, Nishevanat, by service. Translation by His Divine Grace Śrīla Prabhupāda. O the twice born sages, by serving those devotees who are completely freed from all ranges of vice, a great service is done. And as the result of such great service, affinity in the messages of Vasudeva is made possible. Purport by Śrīla Prabhupāda. The conditioned life of a living being is set up by the revolting attitude against the Lord. There are classes of men called by the names Devata, or godly living being, and the Asuras, or the demoniac living beings, who are against the authority of the Supreme Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita, 16th chapter, a vivid description of the Asuras is given, in which the Asuras are said to be put into greater and greater state of ignorance, life after life, like the lower animals, in which there is no information of the absolute truth, the personality of Godhead. These Asuras are gradually rectified into God consciousness by the mercy of the Lord's liberated servitors in different countries and climate according to the supreme will. Such devotees of God are very confidential associates of the Lord, and when they come to save the human society from the dangers of godlessness, they are known somewhere as the powerful incarnation of the Lord, the Son of the Lord, the servant of the Lord, the associate of the Lord, but none of them declare falsely that they are themselves God. This blasphemy is declared by the Asuras, and the demoniac followers of such Asuras also accept a pretender as God or his incarnation. In the revealed scriptures, there is a definite informations of these incarnations of God, and nobody can be accepted as God or incarnation of God without reference to the above mentioned revealed scriptures. These servants of God are to be respected as God by the devotees who actually want to go back to Godhead. Such servants of God are called Mahatmas, or the Tirthas, and they make various propaganda according to the particular time and space. The standard quality of the servants of God is that they canvass people to become devotee of the Lord and never tolerate the blasphemy of being called as God. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was God himself, according to the authoritative indications of the revealed scriptures, but he played the part of a devotee. Anywhere any person who knew him to be God himself addressed him as God. He used to block his ears with the hands, murmuring with the name of Lord Vishnu. He strongly protested against being called as God although undoubtedly he was God himself. This behavior of the Lord is just to warn unscrupulous men who take false pleasure in the matter being addressed as God. These servants of God come with a mission of life to propagate God consciousness in the human society. An intelligent person should cooperate with them in every respect. By serving the servant of God, one can please God more than directly serving the Lord. The Lord is more pleased when he sees that his servants are properly respected, because such servants of God who risk everything for the service of the Lord are very, very dear to the Lord. The Lord declares in the Bhagavad Gita that nobody is dearer to him than those who risk everything for the preaching work of God's glory. Bhagavad Gita 1869. By serving the servants of the Lord, gradually one gets the quality of such servants, and this particular qualification of serving the servant of God makes one qualify with the urge for hearing the glorification of God. This eagerness for hearing about God is the first qualification of a devotee eligible for entering into the kingdom of God. Om Ajnana-timirandasya jnananjana shalakaya chakshurun militam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Bhagavad Vandanam Khadyam Guru Vandana Purvakam Kshiram Sharkara Yuktam Kadatehi Visheshatah Bhakti Siddhanta Shishyaya Bhaktivedanta Namine Prasannaya Prashantaya Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Rup Shri Sanatana Bhatta Raghunatha Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunatha. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Śrīla Prabhupada here is covering various very important points. Very important points. We see in text number 15 that he is emphasizing the importance of remembrance of the personality of Godhead. We often hear from the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam in the conversations of Prahlad Maharaj, the definition, the basic fundamental definition of the activities of bhakti or devotional service to the Lord. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, Smaranam Padasevanam, Archanam Vandanam Dasyam, Sakyam Atmanivedanam. But the beginning is the Shravanam Kirtanam, which leads to remembrance. Śrīla Prabhupada relates in the second canto of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam how one great king, Maharaj Katvanga, he fought a big battle on behalf of the demigods. And after the demigods had obtained victory, he requested a boon from them. So he asked them, how long do I have to live? And they told him, you will die very, very soon. So there's a nice version of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam which describes, Tasmad Bharata Sarvatma Bhagavan Ishvaru Harihi Shrutavyaha Kirtitavyascha smartavyas-chaichatabayam. He's described, O king, that you should engage your mind and your body in glorifying the personality of Godhead. Remember, chant, and glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is a very important point. This is the fundamental pillars of the process of bhakti. When we see how great acharyas have structured their preaching activities, it always comes back to these fundamental points. Shravanam, to hear about the message of the personality of Godhead, especially from great self-realized souls, and Kirtanam, to glorify the Lord. This is very important. Śrīla Prabhupada says in the last paragraph at text number 15, therefore, any sensible man who is above the average man with poor fund of knowledge must do constantly remember the personality of Godhead by hearing about him, by glorifying him, by remembering him, and by worshiping him always without any interval. That is the perfect way of devotional service. Śrīla Prabhupada goes on to explain about the activities of the Goswamis of Vrindavana, who basically rigidly followed this rule and made immense literatures of transcendental science for our benefits. Interestingly, there's a little story in Vrindavan. In the middle of the winter, Panditji Pradyumna Prabhu went to Śrīla Prabhupada and asked him once, why is it so cold in Vrindavan in the winter? How did the Goswamis live, living under trees in this cold? And Prabhupada laughed and described, because you are thinking that the Goswami is ordinary men like you and me. Of course, Prabhupada was being humbled. But the Goswamis were always engaged in the service of Krishna, hearing and chanting about Krishna. Therefore, cold was not an issue for them. So this is a very important point, because we see throughout the various shastras that Krishna always advises to take shelter of his pure devotees. Mad bhakta puja bhyadika, that take shelter of my devotee. Aradhananam sarvesham, Vishnor aradhanam param, tasmat parataram devi, tadhyanam samarchanam. In the Padma Purana, there is a nice conversation between Lord Shiva and his wife Parvati. And Lord Shiva is advising Parvati of all the forms of worship. Aradhananam sarvesham, Vishnur aradhanam param. The worship of Lord Vishnu is the supreme. Tasmat parataram devi, but higher than the worship of Vishnu. Somebody may say, well, how can there be higher than the worship of Vishnu? But Lord Shiva, who is considered the greatest of the Vaishnavas, tasmat param tare devi, tadhyanam samarchanam. Tadhyana means the Vaishnavas, the pure Vaishnavas devoted to the service of Vishnu and anything related to the service of Vishnu. Just like people go to the temple, they get darshan of the deity, they get charnamrita, the water washing the lotus feet of the deity, the flower garlands, the prasadam offered to the deity, smelling the incense offered to the deity. There's so many related. This is kadiya. This is also applicable to the items from a pure devotee, whether it's the cloth of a pure devotee. We all know the story when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in Jagannath Puri, because he was taking the part of a sannyasi, he refused to meet the king for a very long time. King Prataparudra Maharaj would not meet him. So Nityananda Prabhu and some of the other devotees, they devise a trick to some way or other give the king the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So they took a cloth, one of the Bahirvas, the cloth that had been worn by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and they gave it to the king, and the king was worshipping the cloth. This is called tadiya, items related. So this is a very important point, because we see here, when we go to the next text, what is the benefit of that service of devotees? Oh, the twice-born sages, by serving those devotees who are completely freed from all ranges of vice, a standard of great service is done. And as the result of such great service, affinity in the message of Vasudeva is made possible. Now, when we look at Śrīla Prabhupāda's description here, he gives a very, very detailed description of the difference between the Asuras, or those with a demoniac mentality, and the Suras, or the Devatas, those who are devotees of the Lord. And Śrīla Prabhupada is explaining the great benefit and the position of those great devotees. Those servants of God are to be respected as God by the devotees who actually want to go back to Godhead. Such servants of God are called Mahatmas, or the Tirthas, and they make various propaganda according to the particular time and space. The standard quality of the servants of God is that they canvass people to become devotee of the Lord and never tolerate the blasphemy of being called as God. So this is very important, very, very important, because the activities of the sadhus, sadhavu hridayam mahyam sadhunam, these great sadhus are in my heart. This is described by Lord Krishna in the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Sadhavu hridayam mahyam sadhunam, that I am in the heart of the devotees, and the devotees are in my heart. Very important point. We also see in the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, in a conversation between Vidura and Maharaj Yudhishthira, Tirti kurvanti tirtani svantasvena gadabrita, that great personalities, great saintly persons are powerful enough to purify Tirti kurvanti tirtani, even places of pilgrimage. Usually, it is recommended in the Shastras to go visit places of pilgrimage to become purified from sinful activities. So many people go there, and it is described that a personality like Vidura was so powerful that he can even purify all the sinful activities accumulated by people who go there. So this is very important, because sometimes we see that materialistic devotees, or people who've really not understood the essence of pure bhakti, they will tend to criticize great personalities, great saintly persons like Śrīla Prabhupada or Jesus or Muhammad, or great personalities. This is very dangerous. This blasphemous mentality, this criticizing mentality is very dangerous. Why? Because such persons are tadiya, they are engaged in the most confidential service. We see just above text number 17 that Prabhupada is referring to Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, text 69. Prabhupada explains, the Lord declares in the Bhagavad Gita that nobody is dearer to him than those who risk everything for the preaching work of God's glory. By serving the servants of the Lord, gradually one gets the quality of such servants, and this particular qualification of serving the servant of God makes one qualified with the urge for hearing the glorification of God. Because the question may be, well, what's going to be the benefit of all these classes? You people are talking, you're reading the book, you're discussing. Well, what's the benefit? What am I going to get out of this? Look what Prabhupada says here. Very nice. And this particular qualification of serving the servant of God makes one qualified with the urge for hearing the glorification of God. This eagerness for hearing about God is the first qualification of the devotee eligible for entering into the kingdom of God. I've related several times a story about one time we had gone to Śrīla Prabhupāda in 1973 in December and discussed with His Divine Grace how we had some concerns about the behavior of a particular devotee. And Prabhupada remarked at some point, he interrupted us, he says, yes, I've remarked that our philosophy is not to try to be number one. This is not the Vaishnava mentality. Vaishnava means Gopi Partuhu Padakamalaya Dasa Dasa Anudasaha. This is Vaishnava. Now, this is very important. Why? Because in order to progress in spiritual life, one has to be able to have a sharp intelligence to be able to properly discriminate between the different levels of devotees. And this is where one has to use his intelligence and carefully study the message and the instruction of Śrīla Prabhupāda that he compiles in his various books. I've often given the explanation that great devotees never think, great acharyas and great saints and prophets never think that I'm a great devotee. It's the other way around. There's a nice conversation with Śrīla Prabhupada in Hyderabad, Andhra Pradesh, India, on December 5th, 1976. There was an Indian gentleman who says, Your Divine Grace, there is Mukunda Mala Stotra by Kulashekara Maharaj. Are there any translations of that in the English and other languages? Shlokas with you, Krishna mantra? Śrīla Prabhupada, yes, I think we have translated Kulashekar. It is not published, but I have translated. In another conversation, in Nectar of Devotion, chapter 32, with the title Subordinate Ecstatic Love, Śrīla Prabhupada explains, in the Mukunda Mala Stotra, compiled by King Kulashekara, one of the prayers says, My dear Lord, you are the deliverer of living entities from the hellish condition of materialistic life. But that does not matter to me. Whether I'm elevated to the heavenly platform or remain on this earthly planet, or I'm dispatched to some hellish planet, that does not matter at all to me. My only prayer is that at the time of death, I may simply remember your two beautiful feet, which are just like lotus flowers fructifying during the autumn season. For Gaudiya Vaishnavas, we are familiar with the Shikshastakam, where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is explaining, Nadhanam Nachanam Nasundarim Kavitam Vajagadisha Kamaye Mama Janmani Janmanishware Bhavatad Bhaktirai Tukiswaye. One time we were in Udupi, and Achyutananda and myself, we met with one very famous Swami named Vishweshwatirtha. He's also known as the page of our Swami. He's one of the senior most acharyas of the Madhva Sampradaya in Udupi. And as we were discussing various points with him, he quoted that verse from the Shikshastakam, and we were very surprised because the Madhvas are usually very reserved when it comes to admitting the position of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But he quoted that same verse, Nadanam Nasundarim, and he emphasized that point, Bhavatad Bhaktirai Tukitwaye. So it is not that there's a big difference between the teachings of all these great exalted Vaishnava acharyas. All of them are recommending surrender to Krishna. Give your life to Krishna. Remember Krishna. Just like we have often quoted from Bhaktivedanta Thakur, where the great Sachidananda Bhaktivedanta Thakur has summarized in one of his bhajans called Nadia Godrume. Nadia Godrume is a description of how Lord Nityananda used to go to Godrum across the river from Mayapur and preach the Namhata, the market of the holy name. In that song, Bhaktivedanta Thakur has very nicely summarized the whole aspect of Krishna consciousness. He says, Bolo Krishna, Bhaja Krishna, Koro Krishna Shiksha, Aparada Shunya Hoy Laha Krishna Nam. That chant the name of Krishna, worship Krishna, follow Krishna's instructions, and avoid aparada shunya, avoid any offenses. Take shelter of the name of Krishna, which is the same message that our divine Śrīla Prabhupāda has given, the same message that all the Grace Acharyas have given. And in order to understand and be absorbed in that message, we always must take the mood, not that I shall be number one and how much puja am I going to get. This is all nonsense. Simply the mood of a servant. It's simple. It's not difficult. Masjanmana phalamidam maduketa bari mat prartaniya madanugraha esha eva tvad britya paricharaka britya brityasya britya iti mam smaralokanata. In that same book we were discussing that Śrīla Prabhupada was referring to, King Kulashekar expresses that I have, my dear Lord, you are the killer of the demon Madhu and Kaitaba, that I have one favor to ask you, Madanugraha, you bestow your anugraha, your favor unto me. Well, what is that? That I simply want to be the servant of the servant of the servant. He repeats it 7 times. Says, this is the aim of my life. The same message that Lord Chaitanya has given, the same message that we've been reading from our Śrīla Prabhupada on his book, the Jaladuta, on his message, he's praying to Lord Krishna, the same mentality. So we should pray for that mentality. We should eagerly desire to achieve that mentality. So I'll shut up now. So some other more advanced Vaishnavas can speak. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Yaśodā, for that brilliant explanation of this verse and purports by Śrīla Prabhupāda. It is, in this modern times, a rare opportunity to get the association of devotees. The society is completely misdirected, and people are wasting their time. Here in this purport, Prabhupada is talking about the science of Krishna consciousness, which is based on a regular diet of hearing and associating with devotees. So our association here at the Prabhupada Disciples Association is directed in that, and our programs are directed in that way to give people association and constantly hear the philosophy, because it is not something that happens just after one moment in time you become fixed up. Actually, it takes determination, a great deal of determination and steadfastness in this process. Prabhupada would tell us you have to devote a lifetime to this, many lifetimes of effort to become Krishna conscious. Here in this society, here everybody wants everything instant, Yaśodā. That's what they're looking for, instant result. But Krishna consciousness is something that is developed after strict discipline. Humility. Humility is key to this. Arrogance will not get you anywhere. Mental speculation does not help. This kind of thing is going on. And in this situation, we have to remember, always to remember, to be humble in every circumstance. This is something that a lot of people have no training in. And that was the purpose of our movement when Prabhupada started it in the early 60s and 70s, was to train people up how to work together, how to be intelligent. Now, I wanted to go, Yaśodā Prabhu, to a verse here, because this is the Prabhupada's explained in these two purports, really the science of Krishna consciousness in a nutshell. That's the beauty of Prabhupada's speech. He spoke so eloquently on these subject matters that even if you just read one purport, you could become self-realized if you just follow the instructions. So this, Vinkat Prabhu, I wanted you to take us to the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, verse 10, which is a very famous verse, as we all know. Tesham satata yuktanam, bhajatam priti purvakam, dadami buddhi yogam tam, yena mam upayanti te. To those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. So let's go down to the middle of the purport. It says the ultimate goal of progress is Krishna. People do not know this. Therefore, the association of devotees and a bona fide spiritual master are important. Yeah, there it is. One should know that the goal is Krishna, and when the goal is assigned, then the path is slowly but progressively traversed, and the ultimate goal is achieved, slowly but progressively traversed. When a person knows the goal of life but is addicted to the fruits of activities, he is acting in karma yoga. So here it's very important to see how Prabhupada's dividing up these different yogas and giving the results. When he knows that the goal is Krishna but takes pleasure in mental speculations to understand Krishna, he's acting in jnana yoga, much different than bhakti. And when he knows the goal and seeks Krishna completely in Krishna consciousness and devotional service, he is acting in bhakti yoga or buddhi yoga, which is the complete yoga. Jnana yoga, karma yoga, jnana yoga, but bhakti is the highest level. This complete yoga is the highest perfectional stage of life. Now, this next section is key here. A person may have a bona fide spiritual master, may be attached to a spiritual organization. Oh yes, like Prabhupada was attached to the Gaudiya Math. It was a genuine spiritual organization. And here in the ISKCON movement, we have a bona fide spiritual master. We could be attached to the spiritual organization. But still, Prabhupada says, if he is not intelligent enough to make progress, then Krishna from within gives him instructions so that he may ultimately come to him without difficulty. So this steadfastness. The qualification is that a person must always engage himself in Krishna consciousness and with love and devotion render all kinds of services. Render all kinds of services. In the early years of the Krishna consciousness movement, that was the business of every devotee, was to be always ready to take up the service without hesitation. Of course, back in the early years, we were always up early in the morning, Mangalarti, strict regular morning program, and then no time, prasadam, and then out on the street. In Toronto, we went out on Yonge Street, and we would go on Sankirtan all day, every day, year after year. It wasn't some kind of part-time job, but a very committed, regulated, serious service. Austere, actually, in many ways. So he should perform some sort of work for Krishna. And that work should be with love. If a devotee is intelligent enough, he will make progress on the path of spiritual realization. If one is sincere and devoted to the activities of devotional service, the Lord gives him a chance to make progress and ultimately attain to him. Now, I'll just finish off by saying, the Lord gives him a chance. That means if you're fortunate enough, some people think, it's easy to become a devotee of Krishna. It's not. Just like it's not easy to become very successful in any kind of work that you do. You have to qualify. It's by qualification. It's not easy to become a famous basketball player or a famous MMA fighter. These people, they're completely committed to their work on the mundane plane. If you want to associate with great people, you have to qualify yourself. If you want to associate with the President of the United States, you have to have some qualification. If you will want to associate with a pure devotee of Krishna, you have to have some qualification. And in the same way, if you want to be associated in this association of Prabhupada disciples, you have to be very sincere, free from false ego, humble, ready to render service. There is a qualification. It is not automatically just because you have some sort of name or some sort of invitation means you're qualified to associate. You have to be humble. Yaśodā, please.
Very important point. There's a process, there's a bona fide process for everybody to basically take up and to become expert in a certain activity. And the process of devotional service has been given by the Acharyas. One has to become proficient in his Shravanam Kirtanam. It doesn't matter if one is a man, a woman, a child, if one is intelligent or less intelligent, if one is rich or poor, if one is black, white, Russian, American, Canadian, Polish, Ugandan, it doesn't matter. We have often discussed that in the material world, one of the biggest obstacles for people to make spiritual advancement are all these false designations. It's called upadi. Because when the conditioned soul is born in the world, especially with human beings, is entangled in all these false designations and thinking, I'm this body, and the possessions that belong to this body, they belong to me, and this is my wife, my husband, my family, my country, my community, my this, my that. And there's so many different designations. We see this in the material world. There's constant propaganda by different people trying to promote themselves. If you look at the newspapers, the radio, the internet, the television, everybody is trying to promote themselves, how they're so great, how they're so intelligent, how they're so expert, how they're better player than this, better musician than that, better politician than the other one, how each woman or man is more beautiful or more handsome than the other. This is all upadi, designation. This has absolutely nothing to do with who we are. Brahmananda Swami once went to Śrīla Prabhupāda and asked Śrīla Prabhupāda, Prabhupada, it seems very difficult to be humble in this world. Why is it so difficult? And Prabhupada replied, I heard that story directly from Brahmananda. Brahmananda replied that Prabhupada replied to Brahmananda, it is easy, it is not difficult. First, you have to understand what you are. What you really are is spirit soul, and you are only 1/10,000 the tip of a hair. If you take a hair and divide it into 10,000, the tip of the hair, you divide it into 10,000 pieces, it's pretty small. Pretty small. That's the size of the spirit soul. We see in the Bhagavad Gita in the 2nd chapter, Prabhupada is quoting different verses from the Shvetashvara Upanishad in Katha Upanishad describing the size of the soul. And Prabhupada told Brahmana, if you recognize that this is what you are, 1/10,000 the tip of a hair, says, then you can be humble. But the difficulty, we forget that. That is the problem. That is the problem.
Mm.
People do not understand how they got this body, whether a man or woman. Sometimes people become enamored when somebody is very strong or very powerful, very influential, very beautiful, very handsome. Or sometimes people are very renounced. But where did this come from? How does a human being acquire a certain level of qualification that other human beings do not have? Why is it that everybody is not born in a family of a multimillionaire or a multi-billionaire? Why? Because of past activities, past karma. So intelligent people have to develop the understanding of what we are and act with that understanding as eternal servant of Krishna. That is very important. We often quote from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Ekal Ishwar Krishna, that Krishna is the master of everybody, Arsav Britya, and all living entities are servant. Britya means servant. So this is very important to remember. Hare Krishna.
I wanted to refer back to the purport where Prabhupada was saying that the servant of God is never meant to be recognized as God himself. And he gave the example of Lord Chaitanya, as we know, would always block his ears from hearing that glorification, that he was also the Supreme Lord. There was an incident that came up, Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, in our movement, if you may recall, and because some of us may not have the direct experience, or some of us are newer to the mission, you could recall the incident that took place in the ISKCON movement back in the 70s, when certain devotees started to announce that Prabhupada was God. Do you recall the pastime, Yaśodā Prabhu?
Yeah, this took place in New Vrindavan in Janmashtami in 1970, where various senior devotees started to preach that Prabhupada was displeased with the devotees, that Śrīla Prabhupada is God. And Prabhupada, when he heard about this, was very upset. And basically his reply is, well, this is not correct. Then Prabhupada said, so does that mean someday if you become a spiritual master that you become God? No, Prabhupada was very much against this idea, that preaching against this idea that a living being becomes God, even if one is acting as spiritual master. He's not God, never God. As a matter of fact, Prabhupada very strongly, and Prabhupada's spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, also preached very strongly against self-made incarnation, self-made prophets and things like that. Prabhupada did not like that. So when this incident occurred, Prabhupada was very upset, and he wrote various letters at that time, basically condemning this mindset, this mentality. He did not like that.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
So this is another example of how we should remain humble. It becomes more difficult when you become recognized by others. It's a real disease. Venkat Prabhu, I understand we have with us, is it Gauranga Gopal Kids?
Yes.
Is that who is that? Is that
Gauranga Sundar Prabhu? Are you there?
Yeah, Gorinda
Yeah,
Sundar.
yeah.
Prabhu, I understand that you're working very much for, I mentioned you yesterday in class that I was very inspired to hear that you had decided 10 years ago to give up all kinds of mundane pursuits and simply focus on one pursuit, which was the establishment of Krishna consciousness worldwide on the basis that Śrīla Prabhupada lives in his Vani incarnation with all of us. Prabhu, is it possible you could share some of your thoughts with us at this morning's Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam class?
Sure, Prabhu. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutalaya Śrīmate Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Shunyavadi Patrisatarini Jai Śrīla Prabhupada. So, Prabhu, this is, I've been meditating on my personal seva to Prabhupada for quite some time. So,
Yeah, speak carefully into the mic, Prabhu, please,
okay,
so we
sure,
can hear you,
yeah.
because there's some echo.
Okay. So, I've been meditating long back from 2001 to 2002 to what to do, my personal seva to Śrīla Prabhupada. So around 2009-10, I started doing online preaching, and it was quite a success that time. Many people joined, 2011-12. And then I said, okay, now I just want to dedicate my life to this mission. So I was working that time with my parents. So I, as I was more into Krishna consciousness, so my father one day asked me, well, you want to focus on your business or you want to do a Krishna consciousness, So I said, I choose my Krishna consciousness. So then he said, okay, then you can leave. And, and I started this preaching all over the world, online and everything. And then slowly, now, we have many good pages on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Trell. There are so many. On Trell, we have around 4 million followers.
4 million.
4 million followers we have on Trell. Every video of Śrīla Prabhupada, you can post 1 minute video of Prabhupada, his lectures. So the views are 2 million, 2.5 million, 3 million views, of 1 minute video of Prabhupada. So that is the kind of preaching that is happening on Trell. Instagram, we have around 3.5 lakh devotees, followers.
How many is that in English?
3.5 lakh. Yeah.
How many is that?
That means around half a million followers are
Okay,
there.
thank you. 500,000.
Yeah, around 500,000 followers on Instagram. And our post is liked by 10,000 people, 10,000, 15,000 people there. And our monthly reach is around 2 million on Instagram itself.
Oh.
2 million, the reach is. Then Twitter, we are there. We have around 2 lakh followers on Twitter. 2 lakh followers on Twitter. And then but the reach on Twitter is very much. The reach on Twitter is 7 million to 10 million sometimes. That is a reach on Twitter.
At one time?
Yeah. In a month's time.
And in a month. Okay.
Yeah.
7 million or 10 million.
Yeah. 7 months, in a month time. Similarly, same on Facebook, we have a verified, and all our pages are verified. Blue tick verified.
Oh,
so
look at here. Vincat's brought it up for us. Okay. So let's see here.
Yeah. So,
Oh, this is ISKCON Long Island.
Yeah, so that is what,
Okay, excellent.
So,
very,
and
very
because of that,
lively.
when we do our open session on Instagram, like on Janmashtami, we did a live session on Instagram. 50,000 people were watching it. 50,000 people live for nearly 2 hours. So these are kind of preaching. And now we have a nice group, around 100 volunteers are there, very dedicated. Morning they get up and till 9 o'clock in the night, 10 o'clock in the night, 12 o'clock in the night, they're all working. And all of them are college students, 20 to 30 years. And the way they are working, some of the sannyasis in ISKCON will not be working the way they are working. Without asking me anything, they just, they are making posters. Some are making posters, some are making videos, some are making, some research work they are doing. Like recently we started because, Prabhupada wanted to preach to the scientific world. So we started our BIVS, Bhaktivedanta Institute of Vedic Science, in which we are right now, we have 3 scientist students of mine. They are working. One is, 3 Matajis are there. They have a PhD background. One is Chitra Devi Dasi, one is Srimukhi Devi Dasi, one is, Sonia Mataji, she's there. So they are working on this project of, how health, mode of goodness, mode of passion, mode of ignorance, and how that affects our consciousness. So they are working on their scientific project. So we are doing that also. Plus we are right now working on Westerner preaching. So
Westerner preaching.
This works like, we are trying to, on the search engine, we are trying to find out what are the people looking at this Westerner. Because if you see this shloka on Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that, there are people who are inquisitive, who are out for knowledge, and who are in distress. So we have to find those people. So those people are doing search engine, who is God, what is God, where to find God, where God lives, who am I, all these. So these, and we are doing analyzing of all these things. Then we are getting our audience. So we have to target these audience. So like that, we are making a whole website on this. It's called ISKCON Education, ISKCON Inc. Education website. So in this we'll have all these, where we'll have the questions and the solution by Śrīla Prabhupāda. So that's the research is going on right now. All these questions will be there and Prabhupada will be answering those questions. Not us, but directly from Prabhupada books, we'll have all the answers there. So anyone looking for those things will, in the search engine that will come top, and they can see, oh, this is the answer. Now they want to follow this, like that. So this is how we are planning this project. Plus we have our youth preaching going on. So today also, before just coming to this class, I was giving Ekadashi class. So around, I just got 114 people joined my class there. So we have an app there, so we do preaching there. So like that, various activities, research work, and we have a store, ISKCON Inc. store, where we, the book Prabhupada Bhagavad Gita, which you have behind, that Bhagavad Gita we had in 1 month, we sold around 7,000 to 8,000 Gitas that small.
Okay.
So
Excellent.
that is online. So these are kind of things. Online store is there. Then our youth preaching is going on. Our scientific preaching is going on. Like that, many things are going on. Plus, I am also started a Varnashram project because that was Prabhupada's main desire to have a Varnashram. So, in Vrindavan, we are looking for a land in Vrindavan right now, around 10-acre land, there where we'll start this Varnashram project. So all these things are, so my students, who are there with me, they are the most, if the day you meet them, they are so dedicated, Prabhu, they are so dedicated to Prabhupada. They want to do something for Prabhupada, something great for Prabhupada. So that is their only driving force, that they want to do for something for Prabhupada. So this is the reason why, we create that if, we can combine and, do something. Because we have a big team of 100 volunteers who are ready to do new preaching, college preaching, and, new youth preaching and everything, online preaching. So that is a great thing. And we're already getting the reach. So you can say in a month, all our pages, everything, it's more than 1.15 million or, 10 million or 12, 13 million, we are getting these many.
That's excellent. Prabhu, I wanted to say this to you, if I could, that it is very encouraging to hear your commitment to presenting Prabhupada as the bona fide spiritual master of our society. And this is the most important thing, that philosophically, you're aligned correctly with the understanding of the position of the Guru. This is key, because Prabhupada lives on in sound, and we all have the common understanding that he is still present with us. He reasons ill that thinks that Vaishnavas die. This type of bewildered state has entered into the Vaishnava community. And because of that, so many difficulties have come. But with your work, and just see what's happened for you, huh?
Yeah.
That you commit yourself to a service, and then Krishna works with you.
Oh, absolutely. I've seen that,
That
Krishna
Krishna has come to you and giving you an understanding by which you can come to him.
Yeah.
It is very important that we all work together in a common focus. And I'm so glad that you spoke this morning with our group, and that everybody on this call could hear how Krishna is helping you. He will also help all of you, whether you're in Italy, whether you're in Hawaii, whether you're in America, Canada, all like that. All of you, all of us will get help if we simply surrender to the service of the spiritual master. Become the servant of the servant. No one is looking for position, profit, adoration, and distinction. We are looking for service only. Yaśodā Prabhu, could you comment, please?
I think he's just getting up from his seat, so we
He's
can come
just
back to
getting
him.
up. Yeah, Venkat, Prabhu, give me some thoughts on how we might work with Prabhu, as he was mentioning here, his work online. What do you suggest?
Yeah, it sounds very exciting. So yeah, we can definitely work together, I think. Especially things like making the original books of Śrīla Prabhupada available through some kind of app and all that. I mean, yeah, just some ideas I had, but like we have so many ideas ourselves in this PDA, but
Yes.
we, right now it was like a small team, very small team. So we had to like prioritize, oh, we'll just focus on the classes, or we'll focus on only one thing. But if we can, team up and we have a big team of dedicated people, then I mean, the sky is the limit, right? we can do all the initiatives that we plan. So we can start all of them in parallel. So yeah, it's very exciting.
Yeah, Prabhu Gauranga, I wanted to say that, the way the world is right now, there is a great need for this global preaching effort, because Maya is completely taking over, especially if you look at the modern society. Gambling has become the most diseased condition of the human society currently. It is extraordinary how much gambling has entered into the psyche. Venkat, I don't know if you're aware of that. It is unbelievably demoniac. Like, people are betting on everything every minute of the day. It's not just like if you, in India, I think you have the cricket, and you have I don't know what else you have there, soccer type of thing. They gamble on everything. Every basketball game, every baseball game, every bat. The people are allowed, Venkat, if the guy comes to the bat, like in baseball, they come up to the bat. So in the game, there's so many people coming to the bat. They have the 3 outs type of thing. They bet on every pitch, every shot. The people are so and what happens when you are infatuated with gambling? What quality is destroyed, Venkat? Truthfulness. So everything is lies. The media is lies. The questions and answers have nothing to do with God consciousness. It's so beautiful with our classes. It reminds me of the 70s when we were listening to the class. It's very similar today in this class for us to hear this philosophy and become inspired and then get up and get going and start to work. Because Krishna Prabhupada says here, if a devotee is intelligent, he will make progress on the path of self-realization. If one is sincere and devoted to the activities of devotional service, that means when you finish this class, you have to get up and get going. That's the way of making advancement, because time is our Gaur Sundar. Time is our most valuable asset. We're not guaranteed to be here another day. The Lord gives us a chance to make progress by the use of our time properly. This is practical. This is a practical mission. And our hope, of course, is we are going to work with you, Prabhu. We are going to develop an army of people to help save the world. Venkat, any other questions?
I think
on
Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu is back, so maybe he has some comments.
Yeah, Yaśoda Prabhu. Any comments that we'd like to make?
I think you're raising a very important point, because it's
Please.
very important that devotees cooperate, at least devotees who have the same devotional mindset, that devotee trying to cooperate to move forward Śrīla Prabhupāda's teachings. It doesn't matter where devotees are, but there is tremendous potential for devotees to cooperate. Otherwise, Prabhupada many times expressed his concern that if the devotees do not cooperate, then his mission would be a failure, because he spread the Krishna Consciousness movement with the cooperation of different devotees from all around the world. So this is a very important point. And it doesn't matter whether somebody physically met Prabhupada or not. That is irrelevant. What is relevant is the dedication to his pure teachings. This is really what we're concerned about. We've often cited in these various classes the whole fundamental link between the different dedicated devotees is expressed by Śrīla Prabhupada himself. In the beginning of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, he lives forever by his divine instructions, and the follower lives with him. Now, in order to understand Śrīla Prabhupada's teachings and his Bhagavatam message, we have to be conscious of that. We have to be very conscious of that and understand that. Because if we don't absorb this mood of always following and living by Prabhupada's instruction, what is our position? A person can easily be lost. I keep harping on this point that our movement is called the Hare Krishna movement. Just the other day, I was searching. When I was in India teaching in the Gurukul, we used to have a little pamphlet that I had gathered. It had been given to me by Dr. Sharma. Dr. Sharma, Omkarnath Sharma, had been appointed directly by Śrīla Prabhupada to teach in the Gurukul. He was a PhD in Hindi, Sanskrit, very educated gentleman who came from a very aristocratic family in India, in Agra, and he was very well connected with all kinds of ministers and other people. So he used to teach Sanskrit to the children. And what happened with him, he was explaining to me that there's one Upanishad called the Kali Santarana Upanishad. Śrīla Prabhupada quotes that Upanishad in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Śrīla Prabhupada explains that this is the Upanishad where the meaning of the Hare Krishna mantra is given. It's a conversation between Lord Brahma and Narada Muni. And just recently, I happened to get the original Sanskrit text with somewhat of an English translation, but it's quite significant that Prabhupada called his movement the Hare Krishna movement. There's a story that when Prabhupada first wanted to organize a society, somebody suggested, why don't we call it the International Society for God Consciousness? And Prabhupada replied, no, we'll call it the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, because Krishna is God. It's very specific. It's funny, the other day I had a devotee send me a clip from Muhammad Ali, the famous boxer, And somebody said, he's talking about Krishna. I said, what do you mean he's talking about Krishna? Because people knew that Muhammad Ali was a Muslim. But he was explaining a very nice point, that the Christians, they follow Christ, the Muslims, they follow Allah and the instruction of Prophet Muhammad, the Buddhists, they follow Buddha. And then he says, if you follow Krishna and the instruction of Krishna, it's like very nicely that he was summarizing that if you follow these different great personalities and leaders, you'll get a good result. He says, but the problem is that people do not follow, which is very similar to what Śrīla Prabhupāda has warned, that people attach themselves to a particular religion, a particular institution, a particular group, but many times they do not follow. There is even a conversation where His Divine Grace Śrīla Prabhupada says, well, everywhere the followers make the whole thing bungled. In other words, they don't follow properly and make so many mistakes. So Prabhupada has given so many warnings with that. That's why periodically I have our good friend Dharma Bhavana, who was on this call, and him and his good wife, they organize programs. And I don't know who's taking the pictures, if his wife, some friends, or him. They send me these little videos of their program. And it's funny because I see the children and some young adults, they're chanting, they're offering flowers to Prabhupada and Krishna. They're basically absorbed in the activities that we're talking about, to engage in chanting, worshiping Krishna, remembering Krishna, hearing Bhagavad Gita, offering prasadam, and it's such a transcendental inspiration. And to hear that some devotees like Gauranga Sundar and Vishwapran Prabhu and Dharma Bhavana, even our friend in Australia, Shyama Sundar, he's probably the most prolific samosa distributor in the world of samosa prasadam. And he's preaching, because he's not just giving prasadam, he's also giving him some books, some instruction. So there's so many positive activities to get people connected, just like in Montreal. There's Apakrita, who preaches in French to people in Quebec, people in Europe. Now, people do not know, but I know this devotee only sleeps 4 hours a day. He chants 25 rounds a day. He goes out and preaches. I've seen him preaching in the middle of the winter when it's below zero. He's very active in preaching. He sends regular newsletter, both in French and English, constantly preaching. There's a lot of devotees who are doing this, and we want to increase this to get people involved in delivering that message of Śrīla Prabhupada for the benefit of humanity. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, I wanted to further give people an understanding of how Krishna is helping all of us come together. And I know over the years I've struggled to try to bring things together under one banner, and it's been very, very difficult because everyone is so narcissistic, so independent in thinking. But since our association with Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, we've come to learn that he formed a corporation for us in America, which is called the Hare Krishna Society. And it was established in 2002. It's a registered society with the charitable organized charitable group in California, I believe. So this is also a very great thing for us, that we have a registered, at least in America, a registered religious organization to work with as a system for preaching, or a method. And, we hope to expand it, a branch here in Canada, out of Hamilton here, and continue to build that name, Hare Krishna Society. Because in the material world, this modern world that we know, most people know us as the Hare Krishnas. They do. Like a lot of people say do you still exist? Do the Hare Krishnas still exist? I haven't seen you people on the street for years, especially here in Canada. It's we've sort of disappeared from the scene. Hare Krishna. But the Hare Krishna name, Prabhupada said, had become a household name back in the 70s. Everybody was aware of Krishna consciousness because of the huge outreach that the mission was especially bringing the holy name to the streets. And even, I think all of you might remember, there was the movie, The West Side Story. Some of you may not be aware of it, but it was a New York Broadway play, and in it, they inserted the Hare Krishna chanting vinkat. It became famous from that. And then we had George Harrison from the Beatles. He introduced the Hare Krishna mantra into his music. And then we had the Radha Krishna Temple album. And the Hare Krishna mantra was #1 on the British hit parade for 6 weeks. Hare Krishna mantra. So it is possible. It has been seen that it is possible. When people give up their sectarian position, their narcissistic attitudes, and start to work together cooperatively, that we can do amazing things by the grace of our spiritual master, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda. Here, what is this? Siddhanta Folio Veda Base.
Yeah, I think this is an answer to Balram Prabhu's question in the chat.
Okay, so read the answer. Go ahead,
yeah,
please.
well, the question first, did any devotee ever ask Śrīla Prabhupada what would
Yes.
happen if at the time of death they remembered Prabhupada instead of Krishna? What would happen? Is that, sorry, I don't know if this is actually the answer to that, but.
I can give an answer to that. Anyone who says that he is my devotee, Krishna says in the Nectar of Devotion, is not my devotee, but he who is the devotee of my devotee, he is my devotee. So logically, if you think of Krishna through service to his devotee, Śrīla Prabhupāda, then you're actually the devotee of Krishna, because you're serving the pure devotee of Krishna, and you'll go back to him at the time of death. Go ahead, read the answer there, though, that someone else gave.
Yeah, sure. Jai Gauranga. I remember one lady raised her hand after Prabhupada had finished a Bhagavad Gita class, as she had a question. She asked, in the Bhagavad Gita, it is said, if one thinks of Krishna at the time of death, one will go to Krishna. Now, my question is, what if I think of you at the time of death? Oh yeah, so this is an answer to that question. Will it have the same effect? Prabhupada didn't answer right away. He closed his eyes for 2 or 3 seconds as if he was searching for the answer. And then he smiled and said, that is very nice. He said, yes, it'll have the same effect.
Ha!
So this is from Remembrances by Siddhanta Das.
This is the point. We're on the correct path, everyone. We're on the, and what is that path? The path of correct understanding of philosophy, of Krishna consciousness, of who is Guru, what it means to follow in the footsteps of a pure devotee. Unfortunately, we've seen some people don't understand that, and so many people have been disappointed because of the sahaja tendencies of some people. And, you know, we want to help people, as Vinkat we've been discussing. We have different categories of devotees that we're interested in. Maybe you could mention them here.
Yeah, well, 3 broad groups of people. So one group is, for lack of a better term, Prabhupada-nugas. So these are people who understand Śrīla Prabhupada's position as the sole Diksha Guru. And they understand that, you know, the importance of the original books, like that, you know, like us, our group, there's so many more people like us who are not part of, you know, who don't attend our class or who have no idea we exist. So that's one group. We can reach them. Second group is, people who know about Krishna consciousness, but who don't share the same understanding about Guru about the original books. Like ISKCON followers, they have no idea about the original books. They don't understand that Śrīla Prabhupada is the only guru, right? So that's second group. And then the third group is complete newcomers, non-devotees. So that's so there's three different groups, and the kind of the way we reach these three different groups might be different. It has to be different. Like these classes, I've seen personal experience. I invite a newcomer to come to these classes. They come for one class, and then they're like, it was not. Yeah, I didn't like it. Because we might discuss things which they don't care about. Like, but what happened in the past and all that. So, but what we care about it a lot, right, as devotees. So, so there's different ways of reaching different groups of people.
Yes. So that's I wanted to remind everyone here today that all of you are seasoned devotees. There are some new people here, and we do apologize for our discussions sometimes going in different directions. But we are planning, everyone, to introduce a Bhakta program into our Prabhupada TV channel, which will be specific classes given by various devotees on particular topics like the modes of material nature, transmigration of the soul, the different incarnations of the Lord, karma and its actions and reactions, the divine and demoniac natures, like that. So many different philosophical points that people need as a foundation for understanding their position as the eternal servant of Krishna. Like I said, you have to be qualified to take this process up. It's not just something you make up, you manufacture in your fertile brain for profit, adoration, and distinction. That's the business of a guru. This is the business of helping others. This is the greatest welfare work, Sarva Bhavata. As you know, this is the greatest welfare work that is absolutely necessary at this time in history. This is a revolution, a real important part of the evolution of mankind. I'll finish up, Yaśodā, by saying this. When I left the Toronto Temple and came back to Hamilton, I felt like I'd been demoted to the minor leagues of life here in this city of 700,000, because Prabhupada had taken all of us and put us on the global platform of preaching because he was on that platform. So like that, we want to, and with this Gaura Sundar Prabhu, the Gopal Kids fellow, I'm so happy to hear him speak today and give his, information on his preaching efforts to also encourage all of us, because all of you are very important to all of us. Each one of you, your centers of influence wherever you are, and if we just keep working, we'll continue to expand this mission the way Prabhupada wanted it. So Yaśodā, I think we're at the end of the class. What is the mission? We'll come to those questions later, or maybe let's ask Prabhu. Ran Singh has asked a question of Gaura Sundar. What is the mission of Gopal Kids?
Well,
Prabhu,
Gopal Kids,
Yeah,
Gopal
please.
Kids is just my handle. But what I am doing is right now, our mission is to reach out to new people.
Yes.
Not so much concerned with ISKCON people, or because it to make them understand they are basically more sentimentalist. They are surrendered to their guru and all these things.
Sentimentalist, you
Yeah,
say.
sentimentalist.
Okay.
And
go
there are
ahead,
around
please.
700 crore people, 7 billion people around in the world whom you can reach and who are looking for knowledge. So we are targeting all the new people, who are not, they have no connection with ISKCON, but they are inquisitive. they want to understand, they want knowledge of God. So we are targeting those people and we are making them into devotees. I started this online preaching around like giving lectures around 2 years, 1.5, 2 years back. And in that 1.5, 2 years, I've cultivated around 100, devotees who are chanting regularly, who are doing seva. So it's like, it's expanding. It's expanding every day, every moment, even though, we have so much attack from the ISKCON group, from this group, that group, that, they are not, don't go to them, don't go to them. But, I'm just going on, keeping my focus on Prabhupada and praying to him that, just show me the way. And Prabhupada is sending me amazing devotees. Like, we started the scientific wing. I'm not from science background, but Prabhupada sent me these 3 amazing, devotees who are doing PhD. So now they are helping me in this science background, like that. Now we started a magazine actually. Back to Godhead magazine is there. We started our Gopal Times. It's a monthly magazine. It's a digital magazine online. So it has Prabhupada lecture, Prabhupada quotes, and like everything, to like back to Godhead, it's like that. It's an online. So right now in 3-4 months, we have got around 800 something, 700, 800 subscriptions. People get that magazine, they read it. It's very nice, Now we are also coming with a substitute of that magazine for the kids, for small kids. So, because all the people have their kids, so they want their kids also to be introduced to Krishna consciousness. So we are going to use Prahlad Maharaj story, Dhruv Maharaj story, Krishna's Bal stories, and all those stories in that magazine so that the kids can be involved in Krishna consciousness. So like that, we are trying to reach every sector, every kind of people, and trying to get them to Krishna consciousness. And new people we are targeting. We are not wasting our time on the ISKCONites, who are more into fighting and who are more into their guru worship and sentimentalist. So I like to keep away from those people.
Wow.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Sentimentalist. That's a wonderful term that you've used in terms of how people can become lost on the path of devotional service due to poor leadership. Whatever great men do, common men will follow. Whatever standards they set by exemplary acts, Krishna tells Arjuna, the whole world pursues. So it is very important for all of us to set the good example that we hope other people will follow. And in this way, we'll build an army, everyone, of devotees that are following in the footsteps of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda. Today we opened the class, Gaurasundar, or Prabhu Gauranga. We opened it with the reading of Prabhupada coming from India and him telling us about his determination, his austerity, his surrender to the process of Krishna consciousness as given by his guru. And that is the example that we want to give to others by following in the footsteps of our guru, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda. Yaśodā Prabhu, please speak.
I just want to point out a devotee on this call who is doing some very, very valuable service.
Yes.
Him and his wife, Rohini Prabhu, him and his wife were doing some service for the Vanipedia project of analyzing Śrīla Prabhupāda's teachings and putting things in very nice, concise quotes and things. It's a very large project out of Europe. And maybe, Rohini Prabhu, you can explain what the nature of your service over there.
Rohini, are you there? Maybe you can't.
Go ahead, Prabhu. Maybe you got a disconnection.
Okay. Well, what we'll do is.
No, I think he's about to speak.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, please, Prabhu.
Okay.
Yeah, just speak carefully into the microphone.
Yeah. Yes. What I'm doing here is working for Vanipedia, and I am putting together the arguments that the Prabhupada said, like
Okay, I just wanted to say, Prabhu,
just
you're going to have to
short
hold your
categories.
Rohini. You're going to have to hold your microphone
Sorry. Yes,
still because you're breaking up. We
Let's
can't
see.
hear
Let me
you.
try now.
It's-
Is it working better now?
A little bit
Can you
better.
hear me?
Yeah, I turned off your video, Prabhu, because I think the bandwidth is low.
Go ahead now.
Okay, yeah, the band is not very. Yeah. So I was saying that I'm putting together the different categories of, like, for example, woman should or men should or these little nutshells, and I find I'm looking for all these things on among the books of Prabhupada, on the conversations, the lectures, and I'm putting them all together. And it's a very interesting because you are completely absorbed, in going deeper, in the things that Śrīla Prabhupada said, especially a woman. Especially, I'm putting these categories in the one section. And I found a very interesting point I want to share with all of you, because sometimes, Prabhupada is being criticized for being a bit heavy, a bit woman. But when he was talking about the ladies, the devotees, he was so soft, so happy. And once he said that they're not regular women, these devotees, they are Vaishnavis, they are preachers. By their association, one becomes a devotee. So it's not, I'm going very deeply, about this subject, and there are many things that I keep aside and want to share, maybe if somebody wants. And but it's very interesting because I can see,
Okay, excellent.
it's like being personally with Prabhupada.
Excellent,
Yep.
Prabhu. What we're going to do
Excellent,
is
Prabhu.
we're going
What
to
we're going to do is we're going to
talk to Vinkat and ask him to help you with your audio. So the next time you come on the class, it'll be clearer to understand what you were saying. And but we do appreciate your focus on the Vanapedia, the Vani words of our spiritual master and guidance that he gave to us, and encouragement he gave to all of us, men and women, in terms of our Krishna consciousness. Of course, women are and men are equal, absolutely, on the spiritual platform, and we all play an important role in serving our Guru. Vinkat, any other last comments that you wanted that we have that's come in on YouTube, or anything in the chat you wanted to bring up before we come to the kirtan? Because we are moving to the end of the class. We'll end up at 12 o'clock. So we'll let everyone get on with their devotional service and their mission to spread Krishna consciousness wherever you are. Vinkat, anything else?
No, there's no questions on YouTube. We have around 10 people watching on YouTube. So thank you for that. Thanks to our YouTube viewers. But there's no specific questions.
Okay. So thank you, everyone, for attending today, the class and discussion with our wonderful group globally. And a lot was said to help us all carry on with our work and serving our spiritual master with great enthusiasm and determination. And I wanted to remind you that next Wednesday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here in Canada and the US, we'll have the Chaitanya Charitamrita reading. Now, remember, we're reading all of these books, so if you just carry on year after year, you're going to eventually, with us in association with each other, read all of Prabhupada's original books. This is sadhana bhakti at its highest level. And Vinkat, I know we're going to introduce, I believe it will be Tuesday night, Nectar of Devotion class at 8 o'clock. It'll be not this Tuesday, but the following Tuesday, we will be starting the Nectar of Devotion class at 8 p.m. So we'll have 2 morning classes, on Saturday and Sunday, and then on Tuesday and Wednesday, there'll be Nectar of Devotion and Chaitanya Charitamrita classes. It'll be probably both at 8 o'clock, because it's convenient for a lot of other people in different time zones to be able to attend these classes, as opposed to the Saturday morning and Sunday morning classes. So that's on the agenda. And we have a lot of other things coming on the agenda. Anybody that wants to render service and participate, especially if you're expert in the use of the internet and media, you have media skills in that field, please be in touch with Vinkat, who is heading up our team at the Prabhupada Disciples Association, and he's very much connected to, he's a true millennia. He's connected to everything that there is, so he's a great resource for our group, and you can get in touch with all of us through him, through Yaśodā. Anytime you want to get in touch with Yaśodā, he's and myself, Prabhu's, we're always available for you, and we'll do anything we can to help you in your Krishna conscious efforts to spread the Sankirtan mission of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu under the guidance of the instructions of our spiritual master, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda. Vinkat, please play the wonderful kirtan. Let's all chant along. All glories to Śrīla Prabhupāda.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivāsadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivāsadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivāsadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama,
Hare Hare.
Vanchakalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Respectful obeisances to all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Jaya
Thank you.
Prakrita. Thank
Hare
you,
Krishna, Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna.
Thank you. You're beautiful.
Thanks to you and Yasoda also. To everybody. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Back to Godhead, everyone. Let's keep going. Don't stop. Never give up.